It starts by showing us Tessa, and we hear her speaking about a man caressing her naked upper body. She then peers at him from inside the lake as they swim. The scene changes and we're taken to a suburban neighborhood where trees and pretty flowers cover the streets. Tessa was lying on her bed, looking at her roof before getting up and packing up for her trip to college. After she finishes, she goes downstairs where her mom Carol grills her about having all her stuff. After a long drive, Tessa, her mom, and her boyfriend Noah arrive at the college and find Tessa's new dorm. When they enter the room, they find her new roommate Steph and her friend Tristan. Tessa's mother doesn't approve of her daughter's new roommates and walks out feeling upset. Carol wanted to change Tessa's room, but her daughter convinces her that she won't let anything distract her. Returning to her room, Tessa begins to set up her side of the place and gets ready for the next day of class. The following day, Tessa woke up early to go to class and found that she arrived too early and the class was still locked, and the only student was another freshman by the name of Landon. As class starts, Tessa was excited to begin the first day of college. After the day was over, she goes back to the dormitory to take a shower, where she returns to her room and she's startled by Hardin, who was sitting on her bed reading her books. After he tells her that he got the keys from Steph, she asks him to get out to the hallway so she can change, but he smugly responds that he wouldn't be looking. When Steph and Tristan arrive, they attempt to get Tessa to go out with them, but she refuses despite Hardin's goading.
Wait, hold on. Did you subscribe to our channel? Come on guys, you're here, you're watching the video. Help us out by hitting the subscribe button, as it really helps out me and my team to make more videos for you guys. And now, let's get back to the recap.
The following day, she notices her roommate and Hardin in the cafeteria and was pretty much fascinated by him. Later, she finds Tessa in the library and nags her to go to a party until she finally relents. Steph finds Tessa's outfit too formal, but lets her dress however she wants. When she finally arrives at the party, Tessa feels out of place with the ongoing bunch, and although she doesn't want to, Steph's friend pushed her to drink and convinced her to play Truth or Dare. Avoiding any information coming out of her, Tessa chooses a dare and is ordered to make out with Hardin. The overconfident Hardin was upset with Tessa refusing to kiss him, and he decides to leave the party. Outside, she calls her boyfriend Noah, who gets upset at her for going to the party and drinking, and angry at the way he was talking to her, she hangs up the phone and returns to the party. When she goes up the stairs, he finds a room full of books and decides to wander around. She was surprised to find out that it's actually Hardin's room when he finds her inside. Although Hardin tries his best to seduce her, Tessa controls herself and heads back to her room. The following day, she goes to a literature class that Hardin was also a part of and has a disagreement over a book the teacher had mentioned, creating a clear tension in class. After class, Landon follows Tessa, who was annoyed at Hardin's rude behavior, and tells her that Hardin is the Chancellor's son and is practically his stepbrother because their parents were dating. He explains to her that what Hardin is doing is just to get a reaction out of her, which really pisses her off. Later, Tessa goes out with Steph and her friends to accompany them while they get a tattoo. The girls ask her about her personal life and are surprised to find out that Noah is the only person that she dated. A few days later, Tessa's surprised by Hardin, who talks to her in the cafeteria and tells her that he cannot stay away from her. Hardin offers a truce, but Tessa was adamant about wanting them to keep their distance. Being his charming self, Hardin manages to win over Tessa and he takes her out for a ride. He drives them to a lake and insists that they go swimming. And even though Tessa had her doubts, Hardin strips down and jumps into the lake, asking her to follow him. Wearing his shirt, Tessa lets Hardin slowly put her in the water, and the two begin to swim. The two start sharing things about one another, which eventually leads them to kiss. And we see here that Tessa's completely lost in Hardin's charm. After getting out of the water, he begins touching her intimately, but stops when he finds out that she's never done something like that before. The two then drive off to a nearby diner to grab some food, and they have fun when Hardin's friends Molly and Zed arrive. Hardin didn't seem too happy to see them and attempts to leave, but is stopped by Molly. Annoyed, he gives Tessa his keys and tells her to wait for him by the bar. When he finally makes it to her, she assumes that he was embarrassed to be seen with her, but he assures her that he was not. Tessa tells him that she was going to break up with her boyfriend to be with him, but Hardin implies what happened between them meant nothing, which really upsets her. Seeing her walk away, he felt pretty bad about how he treated her, and after returning to her room, she tries on her roommate's makeup, but immediately wipes it off. The following day, Noah surprises Tessa at her school, which she feels awkward about because of the secret that she was keeping. She takes her boyfriend to a gathering that night, which aggravates Hardin, pushing him to start a fight with one of his friends, Jace. That night after Noah fell asleep on her bed, she gets a call from Landon telling her to come over to his house. When she arrives, she finds the kitchen in shambles and Landon trying to clean up the mess. He explains that Hardin got upset and wrecked the place, telling her that her name had come up in the argument. Landon explains that Hardin never talked to him and tells her that he called her over in hopes that Hardin would be willing to talk to her. Tessa finds Hardin sitting by the pool and drinking, and she asks what's going on, and he explains that his dad is getting remarried. When Tessa makes note of how much he'd had to drink, Hardin drops the empty bottle in front of her, and Tessa then attempts to clean up the mess, but her hand gets cut by the glass. Hardin then takes her to the bathroom and cleans her wound. The two get to talking about everything that transpired since they met, and Hardin apologizes and tells her that he doesn't feel like he can be in a relationship anymore, and the two kiss and spend the night together. The next morning, Tessa rides her bike back to school and breaks up with Noah when he realizes what happened. Feeling guilty about what she had done, she chases away Hardin, who also had followed her back to her dorm. After experiencing the loss of her relationship with Noah, Tessa goes back to Hardin and explains that Noah was there for her in her hard times, but he felt more like a best friend, telling Hardin that he means so much more to her. The next few days, Hardin and Tessa experience their honeymoon phase to the fullest, and we see that they're completely engulfed by one another, spending every day together and being happy and falling in love. The next day, after having called Tessa all day and being unable to reach her, Tessa's mom goes to the dormitory to find Tessa making out with Hardin. Infuriated by what she saw, Tessa's mom accuses her of missing classes and throwing her future away for a guy, and tells her to break up with Hardin and focus on school. When Tessa refuses to break up with Hardin, her mom tells her that if she doesn't, she's gonna be cut off. Tessa then remains adamant about her decision, and her mom was forced to leave without getting her daughter to break up with the guy that she thinks would ruin her future. The next day, Tessa tells Landon what happened with her mom, and he warns her to be careful with Hardin, stating that he's kind of complicated. After realizing that Tessa was cut off by her mom, Hardin takes the two on a drive and takes her to a house that he was supposed to be keeping an eye on for a friend of his dad's, and tells Tessa that they can spend the entire summer together since the owner is off on vacation to Italy. Thankful for what Hardin has done, Tessa hugs and kisses him, and in the following days, the two live together, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. On the reception day of his dad's wedding, Tessa convinces Hardin to go with her, and the two make an appearance together despite his reluctance. They were greeted by Landon, who jokes that the two are now technically brothers. In the main hall, they meet Karen and Ken, who introduce themselves to Tessa, and the four get to talking, and Ken tells Tessa that Hardin had mentioned that she's taking English literature and asks her if she wants to be an English major. But Tessa jokingly dismisses the notion and tells her boyfriend's dad that she's probably going with economics because she wants to get employed. Moments later, during the toast his dad was giving, Hardin tells Tessa a story of how his drunken dad caused all sorts of problems for him and his mom. He mentions an instance where Ken had pissed off the wrong people and they took it out on his mom. After Ken finished his speech, he goes to speak with his son, but Tessa quickly notices the anger in Hardin's eyes and swiftly takes him to the dance floor. They spend a lovely time at the wedding reception and later return home. That night, they share an intimate experience together for the very first time, and the next day, she gets cornered by Molly in the bathroom, who condescendingly asks how things are going between her and Hardin. And after making meaningless small talk, Molly leaves. When Tessa was back at home, she sees a text sent from Molly to Hardin on his phone. While she was staring at the phone in disbelief, Hardin notices and asks what's wrong. When she confronts him, he tells her that it's nothing and bolts out the door, saying that she would trust him. After leaving, Tessa texts Hardin several times, trying to find where he is, until she gets a text from Jace telling her he's going to be at Blind Bob's. In the bar, Tessa sees Molly and Steph along with Zed having a drink, and moments later, Hardin comes up and tries to talk to Tessa. She asks him about his relationship with Molly, and Hardin assures her that there's nothing romantic between them, but Molly, driven by anger and resentment, shows Tessa a video where Hardin bets that he can make Tessa fall in love with him. When she sees the video, Tessa was shocked in disbelief that everyone, including Hardin, had been lying to her, even though Hardin followed her out and tried to explain that everything started with a dare, but ended up being real for him. Unfortunately though, Tessa leaves masked in tears in the rain. After packing her things, she goes back to her mom's house, and immediately her mom asks what happened, and she simply tells her mom that she can't talk about it and apologizes to her, and the two make up. After telling her mom, she goes back to her old high school and apologizes to Noah, who accepts her apology, telling her that it's okay to grow, change, and find herself. After the cathartic conversation, Tessa goes back to school and in the following days, relives every moment that she had with Hayden in her head. A few weeks later, Tessa applies and gets accepted for an interview for an internship that Kent had referred her to during their conversation at the wedding reception. At the end of the semester, the English lecturer hands Tessa Hayden's paper and tells her that she feels as if the paper was written more for her than the class itself, and lets her have it because she needed to read it. In the paper bag, along with a note, she finds a sketch of herself and a photo of the secret swimming place that Hardin first took her to, and when she reads the paper, she learns that Hardin had fallen in love with her. Consumed by his heartfelt words, Tessa rushes to their cherished secret spot, where she finds Hardin awaiting her, and profound remorse fills the air as he sincerely apologizes for every mistake that he's ever made. Their eyes lock, conveying a depth of understanding and forgiveness, and in that profound moment she forgives him, and he silently wishes for a lifetime to compensate for his mistakes, hoping for a chance at redemption. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!